Hey everyone, welcome back to the Online MBA backstage event for Poets and Quants. My name is Nathan Allen, and I'm really excited about the panel that we have here today. 4 schools, some programs that have been around for a while, and some brand new programs. So I'm just going to introduce the panelists, and then I've got about 1 million questions to ask them. So we'll just jump right in because we're on limited time. So first, we have Sarah Wenger, who is the Executive Director of the Kelley Direct programs. That's at Indiana University. And then we've got Jill Melton, who is the Assistant Dean of Admissions for the Online MBA programs at Southern Methodist University. Welcome, Jill. And then we've got Jessica Voss, who is the Director of Recruiting and Admissions for WashU Olin Online. That's Washington University in St. Louis. Welcome, Jessica. And then we've got Liz Wagner, who is the Director of Online MBA Admissions at Boston University's Online MBA program. Welcome, Liz. Thanks to everyone for being here. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate your time. And to all the people who are watching right now, the participants, feel free to throw some questions into the chat box, and we'll try to get to those when we can. All right, so this first question, real simple. We'll start out just basic, and Jessica, we'll start with you, and we'll just go around. But just give us a little bit of an intro to your program. When was it started? I know Olin has a very new one of the newer ones. So tell us about that, when it started, and then just any sort of thing you want to share about the flexibility of the program.
Awesome. Thank you, Nathan. Yes. So that's a great question, right? When did it start? Well, actually, our program here at Olin is going to be starting in January. So January 2022 will be the first intake of our online program. It is going to be offered with a spring and a fall intake. And so that program is going to be about 8 semesters long. So you're basically taking about 18 courses over those 8 semesters. And really that program is going to be grounded in that core, that MBA fundamentals, but really looking at it through the lens of a digital technology and how we use technology in the business landscape. The flexibility of the program offers both synchronous and asynchronous course material. So, over a 12-week semester, you're going to be taking synchronous class 8 out of those 12 weeks. And then there will be other material that will be done asynchronously, including also meeting with your teams or meeting with your groups, working on those types of projects that you might be doing outside of that actual synchronous class time as well. So if you think about flexibility, it offers you the opportunity to learn in person from our faculty who teach in all of our programs. The same faculty that teach in our professional MBA, full-time MBA, executive MBA will also be teaching in our online MBA, as well as then having that opportunity if, hey, there's something else going on this week, great, I have this opportunity to take this asynchronous course material as well. It's really designed to explore the presence of digital technology in our landscape today and how we manage remote teams, how do we use technology to make business decisions that will be good for our organizations and also as we grow as leaders in a new digital space.
Great, thank you. Yeah, brand new, obviously, just enrolling the first ones now. And for people who are just kind of exploring the online MBA space, when synchronous and asynchronous are used, synchronous are classes that are live. There's a professor teaching. It's like what we're doing right now, where you've got a professor and everyone's kind of popping up. And then asynchronous are pre-recorded classes that you can watch on your own time. So Jill, let's move to you next. Tell us about the program at Southern Methodist, when you all started, how long does it take to complete the program, what sort of flexibility you offer?
Sure. So we launched our online MBA. We had our first cohort start in May of 2019. So we actually just graduated our first class of online MBA students. Yes, so very excited about that. The program is 7 semesters long. And so you're taking our core business classes throughout those semesters. And then you do have the ability to take a few different electives as you move through the curriculum. Our curriculum at SMU Cox across all of our MBA programs, including online MBA, are really rooted in our 3 pillars of leadership, data analytics, and experiential learning. So on the experiential learning side, of course, we're doing a lot of simulations in class, case studies, group projects, consulting projects, but then through the online MBA, you're also going on 2 in-person immersions, either domestic or international trips that are about 4 or 5 days where you're going, like, for example, we just had students in Dubai. And so students traveled to Dubai and they were working on real problems with real companies in Dubai. We had some startups, we had some tech entrepreneurs, we had some established companies, we had some nonprofits involved. So a really great mix for students to get that hands-on learning. And then last year, we also launched a slightly different version of our online MBA, which is called MBA Direct. And the curriculum is very similar with a couple key differences. The MBA Direct program is really designed for early career professionals, so individuals with less than 3 years of work experience. And while the curriculum is largely the same, we've added additional components around business communication, career development, and then we've also slowed down the curriculum a little bit. So our early career professionals are able to amass more work experience so that by the time they graduate, they have a few years of work experience as well as their MBA, and they're really competitive for those MBA level jobs. So those are the 2 programs that we offer.
Great, thanks. And yeah, another point to the online MBA newbies who are just exploring it. I think a lot of people see the online MBA as just kind of sitting at your house, but many programs offer all sorts of in-person meetings, and some of the schools might want to talk about that later, but international trips, visits to the campus, that sort of thing. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on in the space. Sarah, we'll move to you next. Kelley Direct program is the one that's been around the longest of all these panel members. So tell us about that.
Yeah, no problem. We're the grandparent in the room, I guess. We've been around since 1999. So we're an older program, but freshly revamped in 2019. So in 2019, we revised our entire curriculum for the online MBA program. We're really excited about it. It's actually 50% elective based now. So our program is 54 credits in total. And we offer an option for a dual degree, or you can major within the MBA. So typically folks will come through and do an MBA in management, but they may decide to add on that dual degree if they'd like to, or again, of course, they can offer within the program, they can do a major. So we offer business analytics, digital technology management, entrepreneurship and innovation, finance, marketing, strategy and leadership, and then supply chain operations. So kind of the standard areas, but students really appreciate that flexibility of being able to kind of focus in and hone in on one area for half of their credits. The other half of the credits is our core, our integrated core, where students are taking kind of the standard MBA type courses, but the difference there is that they're integrated together. So you're taking 3 courses at a time, although 2 at any given time, and they're kind of just strand together. So you may be doing an activity in one class that relates to a case study, and another class that relates to your final project in your 3rd class. So all of that kind of integrated core, the faculty work together during your core terms as you're going through the program. And then also with a relation to flexibility, we are both synchronous and asynchronous. So we record all of our live class sessions so that you can watch them on your own time, but we do have live class sessions. So 1 live class session per course per week. Most of our students are taking 2 courses at a time. So about 2.5 hours or so a week is what you would be in live class sessions for, because each live class session lasts an hour and 15 minutes. So quick hour and 15 minutes gives you FaceTime with your colleagues in the program, the other students in the program, as well as with your Kelley school faculty member, making sure that you get some FaceTime in there, some networking time, just that time to connect online together. Just like you were saying earlier, like we're doing today, it's nice to have the opportunity to do a little bit of both, where you can watch things on your own time, but also be together in real time.
Great, thank you for that. And to be clear, being the grandparent of the panel in the room is not a bad thing. Some wisdom comes with that. So,
oh, exactly. Yes, I would agree with that. We have learned a lot in the past over 20 years about how to offer an online MBA. We were the first leader to market, along with, I think Florida was the only other program that had an online MBA starting in 1999. So we were the newbies to market way back then, but now we've learned a few things and used that when we revamped our curriculum for sure.
Great. All right, Liz, also one of the newer programs at Boston. Tell us about it.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for having us. So I'm representing the Online MBA at the Questrom School of Business. And our Online MBA is newer, not quite as new as Jessica, but almost. Our first class launched in fall 20. So we are looking forward to our first graduating class this May. So I'm pretty excited about that. But it is a 45 credit fully online program. We have both synchronous and asynchronous coursework as well. So we have a live session each week that students participate in. It is 6 modules. The thing that's pretty different about our program is there aren't any individual classes. So everything is super integrated. You're going to get the same core business skills that you would find in any program, but instead of sort of studying business in silos, you're going to do it in this really integrated fashion through these 6 modules. You've got, you can do it as quick as 24 months. You have up to 6 years to complete it. So it's pretty flexible in that regard. But what I love about it is this integrated approach to business. So learning business as you do in the real world, and our students really talk about how, and this is true of all the programs that you can do online, you're able to really take what you're learning and apply it the next day. And I think that's such a value add for any program, that you're not leaving the workforce, but you're really able to contribute to your work the very next day. So it allows for flexibility. It allows you to keep working, and it allows you to get those same core business skills, but just in a little bit different fashion than some of our peer institutions.
Right. Yeah. You get to test drive the coursework a little bit on the job, which is the cool thing about the Online MBA. So I'm going to break up this next question since we've got kind of varying degrees of how old the programs are. So let's start with Sarah. Obviously, you all launching 3 decades ago, as you already mentioned, there's been a ton of evolution and changing in the program. So I'm wondering if you can hit some of those highlights of what you all have learned, what you all have changed, and then moving on more recently, if anything's changed since the beginning of the pandemic.
Oh yeah, that's a great question. The things that have evolved, I think, within the Online MBA space is how much connection has been built into a virtual platform. And I think that's probably top of mind for everyone building out brand new online MBAs, right? So that would be the same for Jessica and Jill and Liz. How do you make sure that you are building connections? Because clearly networking is top of mind for most students. So we have, throughout our now years in offering our online MBA, we have a lot of different connection opportunities outside of just those weekly live class sessions. So our program is hybrid. We do incorporate 2 in-residence experiences, one at the beginning of the program called Kelley on campus, and then one at the end of the core coursework called Kelley on location. So Kelley on campus is here in Bloomington, Indiana at Indiana University, our amazingly beautiful campus, and students get an opportunity to come together, do a case competition, and really just kind of jump in headfirst into the big wide world of the MBA. And then at the end of their core, when you emerge from that with more wisdom and a little bit more knowledgeable, do a case competition again, this time on site with the client. So for example, this fall, we will be in Chicago with our client there and making sure that you have an opportunity to do a Kelley on location case competition, but in the location where our client is based. So those opportunities are really kind of forcing students together to network, and it's a little bit trial by fire in the beginning of the program, but that intense experience really does create connections. And then in a few other ways that we create connections in the program that I think we've been intentional about as the program has evolved are things like our student organizations. So we have a student leadership association, which is a kind of advisory board, but also sub-associations that are affinity group or industry specific. So a women in business group, a finance group, a military service association, so that members can kind of gather with like-minded individuals, and we can provide professional development and kind of extracurricular networking and learning, but outside the classroom space for students to be able to connect there. So that's just a couple of ways that we've made sure that we've evolved. I think probably one other way that we have evolved is in the career services space. There's obviously needs to be a difference in how you offer career services to students in an online program as compared to students who are going through a full-time residential program. So being mindful of how we're offering that, how we're adjusting that to meet the needs of adult learners and online MBAs. And then as far as what changed during the pandemic, not much. It was mostly business as usual. I mean, we are used to and thrive in this virtual space. And so really not much changed due to COVID. Unfortunately, we had to put our on-campus experiences on hold during COVID, but we started that back up again in August. We just jumped right back into it with a lot of students returned to Bloomington, and we had a fantastic time being together again. So that's been kind of the nice piece of COVID, is really not much has changed for the online MBA.
Great, thank you for that. Jill, we will move to you all next. As you mentioned, launched in 2019, and then the next year, boom, pandemic. So, how did you all make adjustments? How did you approach that? And what has kind of changed in the few years that you all have been operating?
Yeah, so I mean, similar to what Sarah said, I mean, fortunately, because all of our classes are online, the online MBA program didn't need to make as many adjustments as our on-campus program. So we were still able to, continue with our live weekly classes, just like we always had with the async content as well, and the synchronous live class sessions. So that all went really well. I would say the biggest impact were our global trips and our immersions. So of course, we had trips planned that we had to cancel, and we really had to move it online. But one of the cool ways that we did that is in August of 2020, instead of traveling, we did a virtual immersion. And really, it wouldn't have been able to, it wasn't one that could have been done in person. And so it was a innovation hackathon. And it was a way where students were using this online technology to kind of like crowdsource and generate ideas. And so it was a really great use of this innovative technology to help our clients. And again, you could have done it in person, but you still would have been behind your computer using the software. So it worked really well for us. So that was something that was really, really cool. And then I think the other piece of COVID that actually helped our online programs and our online students is that everything that was happening on campus went virtual. So all of our online MBA students do have access to everything on campus. And then a lot of our clubs and activities and speakers, I mean, they have hybrid events or virtual only events. But with COVID, everything became 100% virtual. And I think what it did was it helped the rest of our campus community become that much more familiar with the technology and doing things in a hybrid way. And so I think that's just really helped our programs be that much more accessible to the rest of campus. So I think that was a benefit. I mean, I really think online MBA programs have benefited from COVID in a lot of ways.
Right. Yeah, totally. Liz, let's move to you next. What sort of evolutions have happened at the Questrom school since you all launched?
Yeah, so it's been interesting because we sort of launched in the middle of the pandemic. So that was always an adventure. So our first class started in August 2020. But what I think was so smart is that we never were trying to just take our full-time MBA and put it online. We built it from the ground up as an online program with synchronous learning and asynchronous learning. And so it was really intentional in design. And so I think that we didn't have to change much as the pandemic sort of wore on. And, by the time it launched, we'd already moved our on-campus programs were sort of in this hybrid fashion and still kind of figuring things out. But the online was always going to be online, but it was built very intentionally. And so we didn't have to change much. I mean, I think that to Jill's point, there's been some benefits of people being more comfortable with Zoom, being more comfortable with virtual learning environments. They're more used to doing things. And so I definitely saw an uptick of applicants that are sort of like, had never thought about anything online before. And then in March 2020, everything was online. And so it sort of opened up a world for them. And we definitely benefited from that. But as far as our learning goes, we take feedback really seriously here at Questrom, and we're sort of still in our infancy or toddler stages of being a program. And so we're constantly working with our students and community members to solicit feedback and sort of self-adjust things as we go forward. And I think that, the other thing that's great about our faculty, it's the same faculty that teach in all of our programs, and they are constantly looking at what's going around in the world and bringing that to the classroom. And I know that's true, of course, at my peer institutions on the panel as well. But we were able to sort of adjust and say, like, okay, I know we were going to talk about this today, but this is what's going on in the world, and let's have a discussion about that. And so I think that being a program that's willing to have that flexibility is really, really been important. But so far, I think the program, online programs in general have been okay because they've always been online. So they're able to kind of just keep going and then adjust as needed.
Great. And I love this question for this specific panel because you've got Indiana, which has been around for a long time. And then, the pandemic happened, making adjustments. Then you've got Southern Methodist that got off to a year and then it happened. Then you've got Boston, which started, in the middle of it. And now you've got WashU, which is getting ready to launch. So Jessica, I'm going to just change this a little bit. Between, whenever you all have been planning this and preparing for your launch, and then the pandemic happened, what sort of behind the scenes changes did you all make based on the pandemic compared to like what you all were planning to make, if any?
Yeah, that's so I think if there's one thing, right, the pandemic in this market has shown us that, like Liz mentioned, right, there is a market for strong quality education that is built with flexibility and online learning that is not just your courses thrown up online, right? And I think that was really the intentionality that was created with our program as well, is putting this together and really putting in the intentionality of how the course experience would be delivered, what would be that content, what faculty would teach those courses, and how would that be infused. And I think what the pandemic has also really brought to us is that our world is changing. We don't know that we'll ever be back in a space where we're all sitting in the same room managing teams, or we're all a part of that conversation. And that's really where this lens of how we use technology as digital leaders really came into the program and forming this program and the curriculum. Last night, we hosted an information session where 2 of our faculty members taught a sample class. And they really brought into that, Professor Andrew Knight really brought into that with that organizational behavior course of, okay, you're sitting in this virtual room, right? How was that team dynamic in that breakout room? How did you navigate that conversation? How did you work through those different pieces, right? And being able to bring that into this digital landscape that we are now living in hybrid worlds and, virtual worlds is really important to our students. Our dean also, with his strategic plan and coming into the institution, we were launching an online accounting and finance program already. And so, being able to take his expertise, he has invested heavily as a school into our Center for Digital Education and creating this learn.washu platform that, exactly to Sarah's point, is these programs still have to develop that network. They have to give a space for interaction. They have to give a space to access resource, to access your classmates, to interact across cohorts and across programs. And that has been the investment into that platform to really be able to create that space to where you're not just logging onto a Zoom link, but actually you have a space that is like you are going to school, right? You are logging into this space, and that is your space to interact with your classmates and build that across that space as well.
Great. Yep. Thank you for that. So we're about halfway through, so let's go ahead and jump into some of the admissions focused questions. And we've had a few more participants join, so I just want to mention again that if you all have any specific questions you want to ask the panelists, just feel free to put that in the chat, and I'll take a look at it and go from there. But so let's go just to the beginning of the process. Somebody is considering the online MBA, but they're also considering the full-time MBA, part-time MBA, executive MBA. How do they know the online MBA is right for them? What are some things they should be thinking of? What sort of advice do you have in terms of there? And Liz, we'll start with you on this one.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. I think the big thing is just they need to do some sort of self-assessing, right? Like, what kind of program are they looking for? Do they want an in-person experience? Do they want a hybrid experience? Are they, looking at schools? We're all going to have different ways for them to network and do teaming, even in an online environment. So you're going to get that teaming. You're going to get that amazing education. It's just what way do you learn best? Are you someone that is going to thrive in an online environment, or are you someone that needs to be sitting in a classroom directly next to somebody and thinking through whether you want to keep your full-time job, whether financially you can afford to leave your full-time job. You want to think about size of program, location of program, what kind of resources are available, and then start doing research. And what I would always recommend students do is make your priority list of what's important to you. What are you looking to get at? And it's much about a fit as for yourself. It is you are a fit for the school and the school is for you. And so you want to really make sure that you're targeting schools that match your interests, that are going to be, have the things that you're looking for, whether that's size of program or certain concentration areas or certain networks. And think about what's important to you and then pick your school list for there. And I always say cast a wide net. I love when people go to these sort of business school fairs and they just happen to stop in front of a random table that they're like just literally resting before going to like the school on the list. And then they start having a conversation and they learn about a program they had never heard about before. And all of a sudden it's their top choice. And I think that that's really important. Make your school list, but have an open mind. There's a lot of schools out there and there's a lot of really amazing programs out there. But we all have our things we're known for. And so, in any one of these schools today, you're going to get a great education, but we're known for different things, or there's little things about each program that are different. And you want to think about you and what you need, and that will help you sort of narrow your school search down.
Great, thank you. And so I'm gonna actually follow up with you on one point, and it's about fit and culture of a program. I think that's something that's super important when deciding on a program. I think it's something that's a little bit easier in a full-time residential program than an online MBA, but maybe not. You can correct me on that, but that seems to be how it is. But I'm wondering what advice you have for people who are really emphasizing fit and culture in an online MBA and how they go about figuring that out while they're looking at schools.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the best thing to do is get beyond us. I'm paid to say good things, but talk to students. They will be really candid with you. And we all have ambassadors that are happy to answer questions and talk about their experiences. And I think you can go read student profiles, you can look at the class profile, but the best way is to hear from the people in the program. And I would talk to different people and get their perspectives, talk to alums, talk to current students, talk to faculty, and that will help you get a sense of the culture. You can ask students sort of outright, like, how would you describe the classroom experience, and hear directly from them. And then that will help you understand culture and fit. Some schools you might have the opportunity for a virtual class visit. Other schools you may not, but there might be other ways that you can sort of engage with the program. And I would recommend reaching out to the schools you're interested in, find out different ways that you can engage to help you establish what that school's sort of culture is like, and what the fit is going to be like. And then that will help you. But I think really the current students and the alums are your best asset to find out what the program really is all about.
Great, thank you. Jessica, let's move to you next. What sort of advice do you have for applicants who are considering the online MBA?
Yeah, excellent. Many of my advice will be very similar to what Liz has shared. So I'll kind of condense it just a little bit here. Is when you're making that list that she talked about, really think about your motivators. What is motivating you to get this degree? Is it checking a box? I need this credential and this is the type of experience it's going to do that. Am I looking for some real hands-on experiential learning because I'm looking at this new role and I need some experience to be able to talk about in interviews? Like, what are those motivators that are really driving you, and have that help you to decide also what is that type of experience you're looking for. If it's, just getting this experience, you might be happy kind of sitting back in the back of the virtual class or the in-person class, right? Or is this the type of experience where you want to be involved in class discussions? You want to be up front and learning and getting that experience. And then also think about your barriers. So as Liz kind of mentioned, right, thinking about what are those things that are going to get in the way? Is it location? Do you need to be working full-time? Is cost, what does that look like for you? Do you have company sponsorship, right? So thinking about those barriers or objections that you might have to come over in order to complete the program, right? So when you're considering an online program, right, what is that time that you need to be online? What does that look like with your family schedule, your work schedule, your life schedule? And really thinking about that, and also thinking about, the timeline to complete the program. What if life happens and you have to pause? How long do you have to complete that? So I think there's some really good questions to think about as you're kind of walking through, just as Liz mentioned as well. And I will also say to that point of asking people, at the school, what it is like, right? And I'm gonna, to your question you followed up there, right? We're a new program, right? I don't have a current online MBA student for you to talk to, but the culture of the school is going to be the culture of the school, right? So you can talk to students that are in our professional MBA. You can talk to students that are in other programs to understand what is the relationship like with faculty? What is the culture and the experience that you can expect walking through the different types of services? And you'll still be able to get that even though we don't have an online student for you to talk to at this point in time. And also, I really think to attend any types of events that you can. Attend different types of events with different individuals to see if that place is going to be a right fit for you. Because at the end of the day, we want you to find what is going to be a right fit for what you're looking for in your career, what you're looking for in your style of learning. And it's our job to help you figure out if that's right for you here.
Great. Yeah, thank you for that. And then Jill, we'll move to you next. What sort of advice do you have for applicants who are considering the online MBA versus different MBA programs? And then also talk about fit if you'd like as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I completely agree with the advice that Liz and Jessica have given. I mean, it's such a personal decision, and you're the only person that can make that decision for yourself. So always counseling students to gather as much information as they can, but also spending some time just by themselves, reflecting on their goals and what's important to them. I also think it's really important to engage some of the people closest to you, whether that be family members, friends, coworkers, but individuals that you can really trust to understand where you are in your career, understand what your goals are, and who are going to be there supporting you through the MBA. They might see something that you don't. They might key in or hone in on something that you've missed. And, they might, sometimes they can hold up a mirror for you, right? And really help you maybe see something that you're overlooking. I think sometimes candidates, can get really involved in like the rankings and what other people are doing, or this is where my boss went to school, or this is where my brother went to school. And there's no right or wrong school. It's what's the best school for you and the best program for you. So that's something that we really stress. And then absolutely, I mean, getting to know the schools. And, it's interesting, many of us who work in MBA admissions also hold our MBAs. And so we've been through the process. And so now being on the other side, I always really like to encourage students to get to know us. We're not this big, scary admissions team. Our job is to get to know you and help you make that decision, in addition to our peer admissions responsibilities. So making sure that you get to know us and the school is absolutely paramount.
Right. Yep. Great advice. All right, Sarah, bring us home on this one. What advice do you have?
Wow, my colleagues have covered all of the bases. So I'm just going to add that we actually, we did a webinar on this a few months ago that's still posted on our program website, because we were getting students and our current students and then our prospective students saying, I wish that there was just like a email template. There's a spreadsheet template. There's something where I can just put in the information from each school I'm researching, because I'm so overwhelmed by my research. And we kind of thought about that, and we're like, well, we can put together an Excel spreadsheet that has the tabs of all the kind of pertinent information, with our information on there, kind of pre-populated. So, check one school off your list. And so we provide that as a tool, because that's really what this comes down to is you want to do all the research, and then you start to get into the research and you're just overwhelmed by all the different modalities, all the different cost of each different program, and then including fees and things, and you start to get overwhelmed. And so it's like, okay, don't worry, this is not rocket science here. We're going to give you an Excel template that is just really easy columns of the types of things we think it's important that you ask a school when you call, making sure that they have graduate career services dedicated to their online students, making sure that they utilize faculty from their business school, not random adjuncts pulled off the street, that they are your full-time tenured faculty that are teaching all the other courses within all the other MBA modalities, and they teach your online program too, right? So what are the really key questions we feel like are pertinent for students to be asking when they're doing all of this research, so that you're not feeling overwhelmed? So we provide that tool on our website, but it was a really popular webinar for us, and it realized, wow, students really are hungry for that in particular type of information. Is just, how do you collate all of this in order to make the best decision for you? Going back to what my colleagues have said, this is such a personal choice that you're going to have your own 5 or 10 or 20 schools that you're researching, that you can pop into this spreadsheet and then fill it out with all the questions that you have as well. So as far as culture and fit, though, I completely agree that you've got to figure out the cultural fit. And I do think that you're going to get that feeling from attending events, going to webinars, talking with staff, and then also talking with alumni ambassadors or things like that. So perfect advice that my colleagues have given.
Great, thanks. Yeah, all great advice. It's tough to go last on that one, but you nailed it. So good job on that. Next, let's talk about admissions cycles. So we'll start with Jessica on this one, since you all just went through your first admissions cycle. Tell us just in general what that admission cycle is like at WashU, the program there, and then what sort of class you're expecting this year as your first one.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, we are still in this first admission cycle, so we have a deadline next week. Hint, hint. No, so our first intake will be in January of 2022, and then we will have a fall of 2022, which is an August intake. And we have an application deadline. We have almost a monthly deadline. There's several deadlines that are posted, and then there are certainly notification dates that go along with each one of those. And so, during that cycle, you're reviewed in that round. You submit your application, you go through the process. We actually use a video interviewing software as part of our application. So your application is reviewed. You get an opportunity to connect with many individuals of our team through your application process, and then a decision is rendered. And then you have that time to make that decision and secure your seat in the class. Our scholarship decisions are made at the same time as the application. So if you are receiving any scholarship, that is made at the same time of your admission decision in our rounds as well. We are seeing positive and exciting interest in our online program. It's certainly growing. We actually have a notification day today, so very excited to share some good news to some of our applicants. And we are targeting an intake of about 50 students for this first group.
Awesome, thanks. Jill, we will move to you next. Tell us about the application cycle at Southern Methodist, and just anything you want to share about the incoming class you all have, or some recent classes.
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually have 3 entry terms a year. So we're starting students in January, we start students in May, which is our summer term, and then we also start them in the fall or August. So the admissions process for us is ongoing. We are constantly recruiting and admitting students for the upcoming cohorts. The application process is very similar to, it sounds like, what it is at Olin, although we do live interviews via Zoom, where you have the opportunity to come on campus and do an interview in person if you would choose. But yes, we're also making scholarship decisions at the time of admission, so that candidates have a complete package and an understanding of what they've been accepted into and what the financial commitment will be. Some recent classes, some of the things that we're most proud about is the diversity of the cohort. And, no matter how you want to slice it or dice it, one of the things that we really look to are the number of companies represented. So typically we start about 75 students each entry term, and we're usually in the range of about 65 to 70 unique companies or organizations represented. So I think that's something really powerful, and that's a good question to be asking, you know, back to our earlier topic. I think it's important to know who you're going to be in class with and what are those perspectives, and is it going to be different perspectives from you or ones that you're getting on a daily basis at work, for example. So that's an important metric for us. We also see a wide range of experience. So typically our average is about 8 or 9 years of experience, but it can be anywhere from 3 years up to 40 years of experience. And so we have a lot of people coming from different backgrounds. And I think that makes for a really lively classroom discussion. So those are some of the things that we look for.
Great, thanks. Sarah, we will move to you next. Tell us about the application cycle at Kelley Direct and about your incoming classes.
Yeah, sure. So we offer 2 intakes per year. We have a spring intake as well as a fall intake. Our application deadline for the spring is coming up here, January 15th. And our fall deadline will be May 1st is our priority application deadline for fall, and June 1st our final deadline. But similar to how Jessica was saying that they kind of have multiple different kind of dates throughout the year, we have kind of a rolling basis throughout our application cycle. So we are sending students decisions throughout all of our intakes. We're letting students know within about 3 to 4 weeks of their application, as our admissions committee reviews on a regular basis. So we try to get those out there pretty quickly. Some things that we're proud of. Similarly, we have, to what Jill was just saying, we have about 10 years of professional experience. So it's really fun to have such seasoned professionals in the program. I think it has really impacted the discussions and things that we're able to have. And then also those case competitions that, you know, folks might be coming in and experiencing that first in residence and being a little bit deer in the headlights just because it's, you know, starting your MBA, it's a big commitment. But when you come in having 10 years of professional experience under your belt, that allays some of the concern that you're not going to be able to keep up with the coursework, because our program is extremely rigorous. And you do start right away with your core courses. Right at the beginning of your program, you start in Core 1. So students jumping right in there have a really excellent experience with their first in residence, in that they get to meet people and other seasoned professionals, and that many of them are also looking to advance in their current careers. And they get to meet with our graduate career services office pretty much right off the bat as soon as they start. So being able to jump in and chat with their individual career coach and kind of get the ball moving on that is nice as well, because these are folks who are planning to move to the C-suite once they're done with their MBA. So that's been kind of something that's fun to watch all of our folks come through and have those goals set right away.
Great, thanks. And Liz, same question for Boston.
Sure. So we enroll classes in both spring and fall, but for us, that's January and August. We do have an extended deadline for January. So again, if you're still looking for this spring, it's not too late. You can still apply to Questrom by November 19th. And we are probably the biggest program on this panel, I think. We typically bring in around 400 to 500 students in our fall entry, and then about half of that in our January entry. So a little bit bigger program, and typically sort of more mid-career professionals here at Questrom. Average years has been sort of around hovering between 10 and 12. More recently, it's been about 12 years of experience. In our application process, we do have rounds of admission. Right now, we're sort of enrolling because technically our final deadline has passed, but we're still, we've extended it and are still accepting applications on a space available basis. For the fall entry, we will have sort of distinct rounds where we'll notify candidates on a very specific timeline. We do have a sort of interview component. We don't do live interviews, but we use something called Cura Talent. So we do a video assessment that you'll participate in as part of your application process. And again, just to sort of echo my peers on the panel, I think one of the things I love is just Questrom, the diversity in sort of background and region and nation of origin, and in such a large class, you have such diversity in where people are zooming in from, but also sort of the companies they represent and the functional areas they represent. And so having that, and one of the things we're most proud of is just the opportunity for networking. I think people hear 500 and think, I'm never going to get to know anybody, like I'm just a person in class. And that's not the case. We have teaming and pods that you're in and on. So you'll really get to know your classmates really well. And we have, of course, different technologies and mechanisms to ensure that that networking is still happening. But I think that's one of the things that I love hearing from students is that how pleasantly surprised they are at how much they've been able to make connections with their peers in the classroom, even though it's online. And even though we're a bigger program, they're still able to make those meaningful connections. So.
Great, thanks. Yeah, big program. I know Kelley Direct is a big program too. So we've got about 5 minutes left, so you'll each get about a minute to answer this last final question. So be mindful of that. But it's simply, what makes a applicant compelling? What makes an application compelling to you all? What are you looking for in the application? We'll start with Jill.
Sure. So of course, I mean, some of the basics, we're looking for individuals who have had good career progression, individuals who have career goals that align with an MBA, definitely looking for individuals that have some quantitative background, either in their undergrad or their work experience. If you don't have that, then we'll work with you on some additional prep to make sure you're ready for the classroom. But above and beyond that, we really are looking for individuals who have demonstrated leadership capabilities, whether that's formal leadership, informal. Individuals have continued to take on new challenges at work, continue to improve themselves. So individuals who are really passionate about growing their career and becoming better versions of themselves. And then back to our earlier conversation around fit, for us, one of the most important things are people that are going to be good community members. So people that are going to be great classmates, be really collaborative, wanting to be involved in all of the different extracurricular activities, who are going to graduate and become awesome alumni, who are going to give back of their time and energy back to the school in terms of recruiting students and mentoring students. So one of the things that we always like to say is we want students that are givers, not just takers. So we want students that are going to be leaning in and contributing to the experience, as well as receiving a lot from the experience.
Great, thank you. Sarah, we will move to you next.
Sure. What we're looking for in applicants is very similar to what Jill mentioned. We're looking for leaders. We're looking for those who have quantitative experience in their background. We're looking for someone who can show us that they're going to have that kind of academic aptitude to succeed in the program. But we're also looking for that kind of that hint of personality. Do you have kind of the excitement, the energy around your goals for the MBA? We're not looking for in your interview, if it's, well, I'm checking a box, this is maybe what I should be doing. We're really going to poke you on that in your interview. Like, well, tell us why, right? We want to make sure that you're not just going to do a sit and get program, because that's not Kelley Direct. You're actually going to be, the faculty are going to be asking you questions. You're going to be kind of called out to make sure that you're engaging with your team members. So do you have the energy and the drive and the kind of fire to do that? And we really do poke you on that in the in-person interview that we do with all of our applicants.
Great, thanks. And Liz, let's move to you.
Sure, I'll try to be fast. I think Sarah and Jill have said a lot of the same things that I would say. The only thing I would add is just authenticity. I think, you want to be really genuine in your application. I think sometimes people try to get creative, and sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. But I think you want to be authentic. If you have clear reasons for why, and you've done your research on your schools and can speak to in your essay or in your interview about why the school is the right fit for you and what you're excited about, that authenticity will come across. And we're really looking for people that want to be at Questrom and have done their research and know that we're a good fit for them and they're a good fit for us. And so that authenticity, I think, can be really important. And that's something that you should look for as you're applying to schools.
All right, thank you. And Jessica.
Awesome. Yes, everyone has mentioned some incredible pieces. And I love what Sarah mentioned about we want you to be that person that doesn't want to just sit there and be, a part in and a non-active participant, right? We want that person who's going to participate, who wants to be called upon, who wants to be a part of those discussions. We want you to be okay, failing, right? This is a space for you to say the wrong thing. This is a space for you to learn. That's why you're going to business school. So, being okay with failure. And most of all, I think along with that authenticity piece of understanding how you authentically align with the school, what we offer, what are our core values, and do those align with your core values is really important through this process. And in our program, you don't have to be a technical expert in digital technology. That's not what we're looking for. We're really looking for someone who wants to grow in a space and become a digitally literate leader, who wants to have an impact on how organizations are transformed in a new space that we're evolving into. And so that's what we're going to look for as we're reading your essays and also looking at your interview pieces as well.
Great, thanks. And thank you all for doing that right at the time. That was great. So thanks again to all of you. This has been a really great panel. I really appreciate it and appreciate your time. For everyone who's watching this, you can find their information probably by Googling them. And I'm sure they would be happy to have you reach out to them, all the panelists. So do that. And it got the thumbs up. So we got approval there from at least one. And be sure to go to poetsandquants.com to check out our online MBA hub, where we have school profiles and a ton of content on all these programs and a ton more. So again, thank you to all the panelists. Thank you for your time. Have a great rest of your day.